Hi YouTube, or whatever you go by now. I've got a 2003 self-propelled John Deere lawnmower with a pretty bad oil leak that I have to fix obviously first before I start the gas engine up again. But project here, I've got two wheelchair motors out of a Hoveround Technique front wheel drive. I have over here, this is a Sabertooth 2x32 amp motor controller. Got a Fly Sky, or one of the, what do you want to call it, compatible receivers. I've got the radio up in my house. I took off the brakes due to the fact that they were so wide, or made the motor so long, they wouldn't fit here within the frame of the motor. I tried to keep it as, if you could see that line there, try to keep the tires tucked in as much as I can, so I can get up close to the edge of the house or the fence. I think that looks pretty nice. This mower was a self-propelled mower, like I said. That little opening right there is where the original V-belt would come through, and it would connect to the pulley system. Actually, there's a couple holes down here that's part of the pulley system that used to be there. I'm gonna drag those back out and see what I could use to attach this GM alternator here. This is from a '95 Buick Regal, I think. Yeah, I think it's a Buick Regal with the 3.8 liter V6. I think this is a 105 amp, I'm not sure. Plenty for keeping the battery topped off, which, by the way, this battery is one of the batteries that I had in the wheelchair. Hi, wife. She's playing with the blinds. This battery used to be in that wheelchair. This is the only good one. The only one that actually took a charge. It was actually registering at about 13 volts. It's actually going to be a little bit higher due to being on the charge. It was like 13.1. I've got this on a 10 amp charge right now for AGM. That says fully charged, but I know it's not. Anyway, to the tires. Oh yeah, here's the bad battery. This battery goes down to about 4 or 5 volts under load. This controller is normally, I think it uses anywhere between 6 and 30 volts. It's able to, take, of course, that sort of input. First, I tried hooking up those two batteries, that battery and the one on the charger over there in series, to make 24 volts, and it did. It made 24.7, but like I said, under load. See, that battery's got a bit of a bulge. That battery, of course, went down to about 5 volts under load, and I don't know if it was the controller or if it was the motor that started making a funny noise. Kind of sounded like a growling, like it just didn't sound healthy. So I'm like, what would happen if I just run 12 volts? So I cut that battery out of the series. Then I had only 13 volts coming out of that one, and it actually did better. The controller did better than with both batteries hooked up in series, and it's plenty fast enough for cutting grass. It's no speed demon. I could probably configure it for faster response, but you know what? It's actually just about perfect. Going to be installing this battery cutoff here from Harbor Freight. I want to cut a hole this big, and kind of have just this much showing out of the side of the mower deck. I have a plastic cover that goes over the motors. I'm going to cut a hole in it once I've got everything fitted for the alternator, and probably build a bracket that attaches here, sit across here for the battery. I want as much weight over the battery as I can, or I'm sorry, over the motors as I can. Thinking about what to do with the front tires. I want to make sure to keep it steerable. As you can see, this motor's got pretty bad oil leak. It's pretty nasty in there. Alright, sorry for that pause there. Had to take the dog out. Anyway, I was saying that this engine has a pretty bad oil leak. I'm pretty sure it's coming from where the bottom of the block meets with the pan. I don't know what you'd call it. Or I might just have a bad oil seal. No, I don't have a bad oil seal, because then it would just be dripping, you know, underneath the deck, but that's not the case. It's leaking up here. So I'm gonna tear this all down. It's filthy anyway. Person ran it without an oil or air filter, so that's horrible in there. I'm gonna throw the carb into the ultrasonic cleaner as well. It did start and run. There's no primer bulb, which is kind of weird, but it started and ran just fine. And I know you guys are wondering, what is that big bulge, that round motor looking thing on the side of the Briggs & Stratton engine here? Believe it or not, this thing's got electric start. That heavy duty wiring went up to a key start that was normally on the bar that would go up to the, you know, the handlebars, and part of that wiring, sorry for my accent, focus, is right here. I'm gonna hack it up, try to figure out how it worked. I know that it does turn over whenever you apply voltage to this wiring, but I'm going to set that up on a relay, because this handy little motor controller you can set up. I don't know if you could focus here. Up, down here, see where it says P1 and P2? Those are controllable outputs. I could hook up a relay, which is what I'll have to do to hook it up to the starter there on that lawnmower. I can start and stop this motor on command, since I have that massive 12-volt battery up there. Got all the power I need to start and stop this motor. Well, I think I've rambled enough. Oh, one more thing. Got rid of these ugly wheelchair tires. I haven't put this one back together yet, but I got these Harbor Freight tire and hub assemblies for $4, I think. These are actually the tires, and these are the rims. I prefer the look of the black tires a whole lot better than these ugly non-marked tires. I don't know which ones would tear up my yard less, but we'll find out. Clearance was, I know you're wondering, clearance was about the same with either tire. These tires, obviously, not much room here. Can't even fit my finger between there, but you know, everything's pretty solid. I don't think anything's gonna wander around and cut into the tire. Those screws back there, don't think I could focus, are actually behind the hub. They're within the hub, so they're nowhere near able to cut the tires. Those bolts actually go through the transmission. I replaced the Allen screws, like these. They're about that long. They used to go into the transmission right here and here, and I took those out. I took the motor off, and I drilled through the transmission, through the threads that these original Allen bolts used to go into. Come on, focus. Whatever. And I left, as you can see, a little bit of the threads out here, and I just used a washer and a lock washer on the outside over here. Trimmed off the excess bolt that I didn't need with my angle grinder, also Harbor Freight, and it works pretty well. This bracket was actually the factory bracket that held the motors together, or I should say braced the motors together. These are the factory holes. As you can see, the motors are a bit closer than they used to be together. Explains why the brakes definitely wouldn't fit. I don't think even one brake would fit. No, definitely not. So I couldn't even use a single brake. Oh, I said this is the last thing before, but one last thing. I told you earlier that V-belt was what comes out of the back of the lawnmower. Well, that's true, and this right here is a serpentine belt. It's a ribbed belt. I'm either going to have to change the pulley on the alternator, which I know is pretty easy to do, or change the pulley on the lawnmower. I don't know how difficult that's going to be, or if at all possible, but I'll find out whenever I pull the blade off. I'm going to probably pull the blade off, sharpen it, take it all apart, clean it, throw it back together again, just for laughs and giggles, because this poor lawnmower's seen better days. But it runs, and yeah, next video I'll have everything hooked up electrically. So yeah, there you go.